If I were to tell you that a book changed my life, it would be this one. When I was 19, I went on my first solo trip abroad, and between learning how to surf and exploring Costa Rica, I read How to Win Friends and Influence People. At the time, I was very shy, maybe not as much as when I was a kid, but it was still very difficult. I would say I was scared of almost anything. Normal, everyday things were really difficult for me, like ordering my own food or introducing myself to people in my surf class. The thing was, I knew I didn't want to be alone, but at the same time, the idea of making friends was terrifying. I didn't know what to do, and that is where this book came in. This small book is jam-packed with advice, and my first time reading it, I came away with pretty much just one tip, but I practiced it and it worked. So I came back, learned a new thing, tried it out, kept putting it into practice. Part 1 of How to Win Friends is great for a mindset shift in how you think about interactions. It lays a solid foundation for navigating interpersonal relationships, but it's actually part 2 that I'm really going to focus on today. It was the most useful for me as a very shy and anxious person because you get tips right away on how to start getting to know people. The rest of this book is more tailored to once you already get to know people and learning how to deal with trickier situations. There are great tips on how to avoid arguments, so go ahead and read the whole thing, but today I just want to focus on the main points that I think shy people could really benefit from by reading this book. The author writes what he calls 6 ways to make people like you, and these are 6 techniques that I've personally used, and I found that they really helped me feel more confident going into social situations. I don't want to spoil too much from the book, but I will say that the first thing I learned was the importance of remembering names. To paraphrase this principle, a person's name is the most important word to them. When you use someone's name, you're connecting to them in a very deep and personal sense. Inversely, if you mess up someone's name, you've just lost any ground that you made building a relationship with them. When I first read this, I thought there was absolutely no way I was going to be able to do this. I suck at remembering names, so how in the world do I do this? As someone whose name is kind of confusing to pronounce, I do notice when people call me Tegan instead of Tegan, or when they write my name incorrectly. I also notice when someone bothers to remember my name and use it correctly the next time that they see me. It feels really good. I don't know how to explain it, but it feels really nice when someone's like, "Oh, hey, Tegan, how's it going?" versus, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" It's really slight, but I do notice it. But before I read this book, I did not know how to implement this myself. Luckily, the book mentioned a trick, so I decided to give it a shot. While I was at the surf school in Costa Rica, anytime I had a conversation with someone and then it ended and they walked off, I would write down the person's name and a brief description about them. So like Layla, short blonde hair, freckles, and then anything interesting that I noted from the conversation, like where they're from or what they like to do. So the next time we spoke, I was able to not just remember their name, but also to recall any topics that I knew would be relevant to them. And as someone who gets kind of awkward in conversation, that last part really helped things go a little more smoothly. That was a tip that really helped me feel a little more normal under the circumstances, if that makes sense. And with this book, you also learn how to be more interesting and how to become a better conversationalist. And it's told through short stories. They're pretty easy to understand. I wouldn't say I'm a very strong reader, but everything was relevant, even considering that this book is a bit older, so some of the things that they reference aren't very modern. So while it may not be the most modern in terms of topics and items that they mention, I still found it pretty easy to follow. In terms of practical use, there are some suggestions at the beginning of the book on how to get more out of the book, just different ways you can apply what you learn. You know, there's a good chance that one of these will work for you, but I will also tell you my personal strategy. When I want to change a habit, whether it's getting fit or learning how to be more confident, I like to go for small wins early on to make sure that I stay motivated. If I overwhelm myself early in the process, I'm a lot less likely to continue. So when it comes to these practices specifically, I've found that selecting one skill to practice and try to master is a lot more effective than trying to read the whole book and doing everything all at once. I feel like I still have a lot to learn from this book, and I've reread it a couple times, and I'll probably do it again here soon. But if you feel nervous about meeting new people or starting a conversation, I think it really helps to have something in your back pocket that you can refer to just to make the conversation go a little more smoothly and less awkward, unlike me. So if you also struggle with being shy, I think How to Win Friends and Influence People is the perfect guide to keep on hand as you are learning how to get out of your comfort zone. You know, I am not someone who really likes rereading books, but I think there are a lot of really good insights in here for other people similar to me who need a little help leveling up their social skills and also boosting their confidence. I know that putting yourself out there is pretty difficult for a lot of people, and it doesn't help if you're an introvert. But, you know, I believe that like any skill, we can improve at it, and in doing so, our lives will get better.